Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon all of you. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulihil Kareem. I begin in the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. And may His peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Dear brothers and sisters, I welcome you to this digital human chain of Islamic Circle of North America, Council for Social Justice. Digital human chain, the idea that we can be anywhere in the world in this atmosphere of COVID-19, where we are not able to go and hold our hands together in solidarity for the issue of Kashmir, but we are showing our solidarity through this medium online, connecting from all over the world, raising our voices and showing our concerns on the issue of brutality and oppression of Indian regime that has been going on for now 73 years. It was last year, exactly on August 5, 2019, when the brutality of the regime and the greater oppression of the state of India that they laid bare and completely ignored all the human rights, completely ignored UN resolutions, completely ignored the world's voice on the issue of Kashmir and showed that their brutality is not going to end. Their oppression of Kashmiri people is not going to end. And today, it has been a year, and people in Kashmir, they are still suffering. They are still living under that extreme, brutal regime, and their lives are in a very desperate and critical conditions. I'm happy to have today with us brothers and sisters, experts on the issue of Kashmir who have lived, seen it, seen the brutality of oppression, heard it from the direct stories from their parents, their family members, and have been raising voices and trying to reach out to the larger community, to the global community, and their voices are the voices that we must all hear and listen and pay attention to when they're talking to us and they're telling us what is happening in Kashmir. I'm very happy to have with us um, experts who will share with us from their own experiences, who will share with us the work and the research that they have done over the last many, many years, their activism on this issue, and how they will encourage us to participate in this process in raising voices for those who are being oppressed, in raising the issues of people who are otherwise are not being heard, so that inshallah, one day, with the help of God Almighty, people of Kashmir will be able to fulfill the right of their self determination, the right that each and every one of us feels for granted, the freedom that we live in, the ability to walk out, the ability to go anywhere in our countries. And I live in United States of America. I can drive from here all the way to California. I can drive from Washington D.C. to Seattle, Washington, and nothing will stop me. Nothing will ask. Nobody will stop me and ask me, where are you going and why are you going? But that is not the case when it comes to people of Kashmir. That is not the case when, if you want to go and visit Kashmir. That is not the case if you're a journalist and you want to report what is happening in all of your honesty, but you are not allowed to go there. Even if you are senators of United States of America, Indian government can still stop you from entering into Kashmir, and we know all of that has been going on for many, many years. So with us today, um, and there will be two panels. In our first panel, we will hear direct stories. We'll hear from our experts who have witnessed those situations and who are raising these voices um, directly and through their own organizations, through their own work, in speaking, different speaking forums, or reaching out to different governments. And the second part of the program, we will have experts on social justice, civil rights from United States of America, and they will talk to us that how it is important for Americans to participate in raising their voices for the issue of Kashmir. So I'm very happy to have with us. Our first speaker will be Shaista Safi. She was born in Baramulla, which is in Indian occupied Kashmir. And she lived her life as an exile and refugee in Pakistan, administered Kashmir and Islamabad. She did postgraduate in social justice and women and children issues, especially in the conflict zones. By profession, she is a researcher and an academia. But her passion for Kashmir led her to advocate the Kashmiri cause. She started her career with Kashmir Institute of International Relations and moved on to work with International Kashmir Lobby Group as director programs. And she has frequently worked with government officials, ambassadors, think tanks, as well as international NGOs and political activists. She is also a former TV anchor, and her program was on current affairs, especially current affairs in the subcontinent. And Shaista has represented Kashmir internationally in different seminars and conferences, including UN, OIC, Malaysia, Turkey, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, and British Parliament. And she was a keynote speaker at the Kashmir conference, which was held in Pakistan. We welcome Shaista. Now, Shaista is based in London these days, but her activism is through online. She is the founder of Youth Forum for Kashmir, and I hope that she will tell us more about that as well. But we welcome you, Shaista, and this is all yours now.
Thank you very much, and I would like to thank the organizers for providing me this opportunity to appear in front of the audience and speak about what has happened in Indian occupied Kashmir. Born in occupation, you are born differently when you are born in occupation, and the stories you grow up with, the kind of the atmosphere and environment you grow up in. Nurtures you differently. I've been born in Indian occupied Kashmir. My family back there, we had to migrate to Pakistan when the bloodshed was at its peak. Um, I still remember. I have very few memories of Kashmir, Indian occupied Kashmir, but still, whenever I recall those memories, goosebumps are there. I still feel the vibration. I still feel the destruction I saw, the vandalism I saw of my house. And the word vandalism, we come to know when even our toys are not safe from Indian military, when they raid our house at night and we are thrown out of the house and we have to stay in the cold weather. And I still remember my mother putting me in her ferran, that the cloak we Kashmiri wear in winter. But I could still remember and still remember the fast heartbeat of my mother, but still the strength she showed and the way she was telling us that everything is fine and they are just checking our house. And she tried to console us. But now, when I remember that, I remember how she must have been feeling and how fear and scared she must have been. But if we rewind, coming back to what we saw recently last year, if we rewind to the time last year, India illegally annexed the disputed territory of occupied Kashmir, my homeland, and just hours before the clock struck midnight on August 4th, 2019, we the people who are living in diaspora were flooded with goodbye messages from our friends and relatives. And because who sensed something worrying was going to happen, because they saw that influx of additional occupation forces, they witnessed on the streets, the public notices they heard and listened for all the tourists and Indian national to escape Kashmir, and rumors that were spreading in Kashmir of complete or blanket ban on landlines, mobile networks, internet, and even cable channels. So when 5th of August came, all the rumors turned into reality when India illegally and unilaterally annexed occupied Kashmir, turning it from a de facto occupation to a de jure occupation. and strengthening its occupation by imposing complete curfew and communication blackout. And the world witnessed the deadly silence from Kashmir for more than 16 weeks. And Kashmir was cut off from the world, but more importantly, people like us were cut off from our loved ones. We didn't know were they alive, what were they up to, and the world knew what India had done. Yet those India had done it to, they had no idea or clue due to the blanket ban on media and communication. So we might be right now living in a world where information is just one click away, but still we do not know the full extent of what India has done and what has happened in the last 12 months in Indian occupied Kashmir. With additional Indian military forces sent to Kashmir, the total number of armed forces and military personnel now stand near to 1 million, making Kashmir the densest military to civilian ratio in the world. And now, under this COVID-19 cover, India sent thousands of full buses full of Indian migrants to Kashmir, as well as armed forces in civilian clothing, including intelligence operatives. So Kashmiris living abroad, people like me, we found out months later about our family events. There was a report in the news that one young man learned that his fiance died 4 months after it happened. A son who had never seen or spoken to his mother in months watched a news channel where he saw a glimpse of his mother. And then there were digital deaths. This was something new, that where Facebook and Twitter accounts, even WhatsApp numbers were suddenly deactivated because of inactivity, leaving friends and family members fearful that maybe it represented something more sinister. But let's rewind our time and go back to 2016, 2010, 2008, early 90s, and even further. Do we see any different picture of Kashmir? Do we remember any different picture of Kashmir? No. Killings, molestations, rapes, curfews, lockdowns, raids, blanket ban on communication, closing down of educational institutions, offices, everyday life, destruction of economy, destruction of property and businesses. This is the story of Kashmir, and it's not just from the August 5th, but since the occupation has started. So, for more than 73 years, Kashmiris have faced persecution, uh, they have faced subjugation, repression, and they have suffered unimaginable war crimes and crimes against humanity, such as the hundreds of thousands of killings we have witnessed, injured, orphaned, tens of thousands of raped and gang raped, thousands of mass graves. We have seen the draconian laws, enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killing, and even judicial killings, widows and half widows, human shields, torture, pallets, and the list can go on and on. On August 15, just 10 days after the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A, Genocide Watch, a member and current coordinator of the Alliance Against Genocide, issued a genocide alert informing the UN and its member to warn India not to commit genocide in Kashmir. They showed the stages of genocide were far advanced, and early warnings of massacre were fulfilled based on the risk factors. If I quote, those 10 stages are classifications, symbolization, discrimination, dehumanization, organization, polarization, preparation, persecution, extermination, and denial. And I tell you something, Kashmir has exceeded all these stages. And when genocide stages are fulfilled, the occupier is in a full swing right now to change the demographic as well. Just a few days ago, a report was published that India have already issued 400,000 domicile certificates to non-Kashmiris so they may permanently reside in Kashmir. The demographic change, ethnic cleansing, and settler colonial project is in full swing, as much so that if it took Israel 50 years to do what India have done just in less than a month. So India have used very tactics on Kashmiris to force, coerce, and intimidate the people to accept slavery. And on August 5th, India used a bulldozer to try and crush Kashmiris once and for all. It's now plain and obvious that the people may or may not matter, the territory matters. For their settler colonial project to force demographic change, maybe for military and strategic positioning, maybe for so many types of minerals and natural resources Kashmir have, or maybe for the hydroelectric potential. A few reasons that have been publicly stated, and one by CM of Haryana is, and I quote him, some people are saying Kashmir is open now and brides will be brought from there. Other BJP member of Legislative Assembly said, and I quote, that the party workers in other provinces of India should rejoice. They can easily marry white-skinned women of Kashmir now. And there are reports that how to marry Kashmiri woman was progressively Googled. This term, how to marry Kashmiri woman, was progressively Googled after August 5th. So, can we imagine how the women of Kashmir must be feeling as they have seen the life in that so called special status? And now, when Kashmir is turned into a union territory, we fear what India can do to. By unilaterally abrogating the article, India have violated their own constitution, which clearly states no changes can be made to Kashmir without consultation and approval from the Jammu Kashmir Legislative Assembly. Even India have broken their own past promises of holding a plebiscite in Kashmir and have been changing the nature of Kashmir for years. And abrogating Article 370 and 35A in a way that they have reflects the blatant disregard India has for the UN resolutions and international laws, but also demonstrates the openly sinister politics of Narendra Modi, the BJP, and the RSS. However, whenever India is approached by the international world, India claims the issue of Kashmir is a bilateral issue or matter between them and Pakistan. And when Pakistan asks India to come to the table, India claims Kashmir is an integral internal issue. And when Kashmiris wish to negotiate and start dialogue, India states there is no issue at all. So while India fools the world, they have used Kashmir as a testing ground or a laboratory to experiment the extent of their impunity from the crimes they commit. And
Yes,
India,
so, um, in the interest of time, I would like to also hear from Mr. Altaf Sanwani as well. Um, Thank you for mentioning the aspect of genocide, and I think that is something that that world does not hear. That when it is officially documented that over 150,000 people have been killed, when it is officially documented that more than 8,000 individuals are still missing, when it has been officially documented the existence of mass graves, what else is
world is waiting
missing
for.
that we
True.
cannot call it a genocide? Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing all of that up. And I would remind our that we have you know hundreds and hundreds of people watching this program. So please send us your comments and your questions, and we will ask our presenters those questions if the time permits. So our next speaker is Mr. Altaf Sanwani. Mr. Altaf Sanwani is chairman of KIIR and has done. He has a master's in economics. He's a member of all parties Hurriyat Conference, Azad Jammu and Kashmir chapter, and also a representative of Jammu Kashmir National Front. He has served as vice chairman of UJC in 1996, and thenceforth he worked as general secretary UJC from 97 to 99. Mr. Wani coordinated various national and international conferences on Kashmir. He has attended sessions of UN Human Rights Commissions and Subcommission in Geneva, and has also attended sessions of UN Human Rights Council in Geneva from 2009 to 2019. He has served as a permanent representative, International Islamic Federation of Students Organization to UN between 2012 and 2014. Or 2012 and 2014, and currently he is serving as a representative to World Muslim Congress at UN. And 2015 to present, Mr. Wani has delivered numerous lectures on Kashmir issue at different universities, and he regularly briefs Pakistan and allied um, countries and diplomats in Islamabad. He has written numerous articles and has been published in many print media. Mr. Wani, thank you very much for joining us today. And please tell us on this August 5, 2020, it has been a year with the since the Indian government came up with new laws and regulations and occupation.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this event for providing me this opportunity to speak to the people around the globe who are making a human chant in New York and other places. As Shaista has brought in all the aspects of Kashmir dispute and the struggle of people of Kashmir, what's happening in Kashmir, what has been happening in the past, and what is happening currently in Kashmir. She has touched each and every aspect of the human rights violation in Kashmir and also the sufferings of the women and the way the Modi government is pursuing its policy of Hindutva in all of India and particularly in Kashmir to annex Kashmir and to change the demographic of the Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. As she rightly said, that lockdowns or communication blockade is not new to the people of Kashmir. We have been under the lockdown for last 70 years, 73 years, and more importantly, from last 30 years onwards, it was a lockdown. It was also always a military crackdown in Kashmir. We have survived many crackdowns in Kashmir. We have seen death and destruction in our own eyes. We have seen, as Shaista was telling about her home, I have seen my home occupied by the Indian Army for weeks together, and all my family was caged in, and other family members, and also whole of my village was forced to leave the village. So we have seen this in different places. We were there in Kashmir and witnessed all these errors what Indian Army has been taking, and all that happened that they had total impunity and they can't be tried in any court of law. But what happened on August 5th was unprecedented. After failing to subjugate people of Kashmir through its military might for last 30 years, for providing its occupation forces the license to kill the people of Kashmir, to maim the people of Kashmir, as we have seen the world's biggest mass blinding in the current history happened in 2016 in Kashmir. That was Kashmir, which happened and which was rightly pointed out by the international media, the year of mass blinding in Kashmir. So these types of things happened in Kashmir. And as you also said that we have seen over 100,000 killings in Kashmir in the current phase of freedom struggle. If you take the account of all the sacrifice which people of Kashmir have rendered for this freedom struggle, if you count genocide that the Maharaja government and also these RSS and Jensen groups took in 1947 and forced hundreds of thousands of people to migrate to Pakistan and killed over 2.8 million people on spot in Jammu. If you take that in count, then the quantum of sacrifices people of Kashmir have made is immense, and it is unimaginable and unmatchable around the globe. You can't match any of this freedom struggle in the current phase, which has rendered so much of sacrifice. But after failing to subjugate people of Kashmir through military might, this BJP government, the RSS government, which already had in its mind, in its manifesto, again, time and again in 2014, they proclaimed that they will abrogate the Article 370 and 35A of the Indian Constitution and thereby integrate Indian occupied Kashmir into the Indian Union and will influence the Indian laws and Hindutva ideology to the Kashmir with their aim, one flag, one ideology, and one nation and one language, which they always preach about it. That is Hindutva. But when they in the first election, they don't have that much of majority in that phase. What they did at that time, they also had certain projects like to construct the Sainik colonies in Kashmir, to provide land to the homeless, Indian homeless, to settle them in Kashmir, and to create the ghettos for the Kashmiri Pandits, migrants, to settle them in separate townships in Kashmir, and also to provide land to the shrines, which was a militarized pilgrimage in Kashmir. They invented new and new places for the Hindu pilgrimage in Kashmir at different places. And by that way, they started with this. And by the end of 2018, when the new elections were ready to take place in Kashmir, they took a very farce election campaign against the people of Kashmir, against the Muslims of Kashmir, against the Pakistan, and made it sure that the Indian Hindu fundamentalist vote bank is because in the first phase, Modi failed to develop what he has promised in his first election manifesto, to develop the India, to have a Gujarat model. Not, but what Gujarat model he had, that was, he was the butcher of Gujarat. He became the butcher of all of the India and butcher of Kashmir. And then he started targeting. And again, when they won the election by huge majority, they were able, the BJP was able to convince the Indian public, the majoritarian public of India, to vote for them, because they were the only to decide the future of India. The opposition of India was marginalized. They were defeated in all fronts, and there was no one to criticize the government of India, to criticize the BJP and all others. And so, one fine morning, as Shaista, a very beautifully crafted that story, how it happened, what was the 4th of August midnight for us, for all of us living outside Kashmir, how we got the message of goodbye. We don't know we would live or not. A goodbye to all of you. So that all happened. All communication lines were cut down, and they unilaterally stripped that so-called autonomy which was there. As you may be knowing that even when this Article 370 was inserted in the Indian Constitution, from that day, the erosions took place in this article. There were 47 presidential orders to influence the erosion in this article. And out of 97 subjects, 94 subjects, the Indian Parliament was able to make laws on Kashmir. This all was also illegal. It was unconstitutional. They have been doing it. But at that time, they had a sort of political arrangement in Kashmir, the puppets in Kashmir. By those puppets, they managed all these things. But this time, what they did, they deceived those puppets also. Those puppets were also deceived. They were caged also. They were put in the prison. They were shown their way. They realized at that time that they had done the wrong in the past. Their forefathers have done wrong in the past, and they are paying the price for that. But those all these things were unconstitutional. If we go legally, these things were unconstitutional. They were immoral, and they were against the international law, and they were against the spirits of the UN resolutions on Kashmir. But who cares? India did not care. They did not take anything into account. They did not take any criticism into account. Although the UN Human Rights Commissioner on the very first day said that the right self-determination of people of Kashmir is safeguarded under the international law, and no unilateral decision can be taken on this. UN Secretary General showed his concern on it, and said that Kashmir is a disputed territory. But Indian government went on implementing its plans. They went on, and the biggest thing, the most dangerous thing which they had in their kitty to do was to change the demography of Kashmir. For that purpose, they enacted a new domicile law on 1st of April. 1st of April, a new domicile law was enacted in Kashmir, and that law gives the domicile certificates, permanent residency to all those people, Indians who have lived in Kashmir for 15 years or served in Kashmir for 10 years, or those students who have passed 12th grade or 10th grade examination from Kashmir. They are qualified for these domiciles. As Saista said, so far we have reports that online, a fast track system, the urgency you can see, there is a fast track system, there is urgency in Indian system that they have registered online and they have been provided these domiciles online. 400,000 domiciles so far have been issued to the non-state residents to settle in Kashmir. And also, as per some of the research done by some of our friends, Kashmiri lawyers, there are at present there are about 1,700,000 plus people who are eligible to these domiciles according to these new laws. So what the government has in plan is in so urgency they are doing it. These all domiciles, 98% of these domiciles are given in the Jammu region. The purpose of this is to, first of all, to change the demography in the regions of Jammu where the Muslims are in a majority, and thereby after that they have in a plan to delegitimize the assembly segments and give more and more assembly segments to the Jammu province, and thereby more and more people from Jammu province will be elected to the state assembly, and those all will be the non-Muslims and all that. That is their plan to do, and thereafter they will come to the Kashmir Valley and do there. But as research say already, but this domicile law, what consequence it has? The first of all, it is to defeat the right celebration of people of Kashmir is the more important thing. To confuse the international community. Tomorrow they have also in this by this new law, all those people who have migrated from Kashmir to Pakistan and other places in 1947, in 65, 71 onwards, their right to return is denied. They are denied right the right to claim to their property which is in Kashmir. So thereby they will not go there, but the Indians will come and settle in Kashmir. They will own the land. The second is it is the biggest land grab project in the world. We have seen the Palestine and all these things, the land grab Israelis are doing there, but the Kashmir land grab project is the biggest land grab project. Till date, in Kashmir, we had two stations. In occupied Kashmir, the Indian two stations only, which were family stations. Now, each and every cantonment in Kashmir will be a family station, and Indian Army has been given the authority to occupy land around the cantonments without taking any permission from the local government or the owners of the land. The Indian Army will themselves decide the price of the land. If they want to give them any price, that will be dictated by the Indian Army, and they will grab that land. And only research also show only 30% of the land in Indian occupied Kashmir is which we can have cultivation, which is available for habitat. So when you have a large influx of population from outside, you have to create new colonies for them. For that purpose, you have to do the deforestation in Kashmir, and that will create another disaster. That will be ecology and environment disaster in Kashmir. So on all fronts, on one hand, they are taking our land. On the other hand, they are taking our employment. On the third hand, they are infringing upon our culture, our identity. Their new education policy is to rewrite the history of Jammu and Kashmir. They will write the history of Jammu and Kashmir, which will serve the purposes of RSS and BJP. That the new younger generation of people of Indian occupied Kashmir will not know about their history, their past history, because the new history books will be written, which will serve the purpose of RSS and BJP and their leaders in past. So these all things are to snatch our identity, to snatch our culture, to snatch our history, and above all, to defeat the right to self-determination of people of Kashmir. This is what India is doing. They are doing it on a fast track. But on the other hand, what people of Kashmir are doing, what the people of Kashmir are still giving their blood, their mothers are sacrificing their sons for this liberation movement. Our elders, our youngers, everyone is there to oppose it. They are one on this front. But
No, why
what is
not?
our
Thank
duty
you.
to
Thank you
people
very much.
living
Uh,
outside the
you
Indian?
are, mashallah, you have presented, uh, the whole situation in a very nice way, and we understand that um, Kashmir currently is the most militarized region in the whole world. And now that we have just heard from Mr. Wani that the biggest land grab is taking place in Kashmir. Changing of demographics is taking place in Kashmir, and Kashmirs who have been living abroad because of this occupation, but their ancestors are from Kashmir. They do not have the right to go back. But people who just want to just move to Kashmir from other parts of India, it has been made very easy for them, and this is what we are seeing, that this is a total um, uh, the greater plan of Hindutva, the greater plan of BJP and RSS, and to just to capture the land, to to get rid of Muslims from Kashmir, and also in reality to get rid of Muslims from other parts of India as well. And we are witnessing what is going on in other parts of India as well. We will move on to our next segment, and in our next segment, we have three speakers. They're all from United States of America. We have Dr. Ghulam Nabi Mir, we have Osama Jamal, and we have Dr. Osama Abu Said. Um, and first of all, I would like to go to Dr. Ghulam Nabi Mir. Dr. Musab has been leading World Kashmir Awareness Forum for many, many years. He is uh, well known in the United States and also internationally. His work for the people of Kashmir is widely known, and Dr. Mir has been one of the leaders of American Muslim community and has served at different levels in different Muslim organizations. So we welcome Dr. Ghulam Nabi Mir, and I request Dr. Mir to please share his comments at this time.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala Rasulil Kareem. Dear brothers, particularly Brother Naeem Beg, and thank you for inviting me. Thanks to Zahid Bukhari. And I'm happy to be with the distinguished panelists here. Inshallah, I'll try to be as brief as I can. If I run over 10 minutes, let me know. I'll stop at that point. Brothers and sisters, this is the umpteenth time that we have been telling our story. It's a tale of a world community must listen good. India must not learn wrong lessons from 8-5 adventure. It is turning out to be a misadventure. If we look at the emerging big picture, we will see the first few signs of that happening. There was a reason things were moving at a snail's pace prior to 8520. India and Pakistan leaders knew it. We all knew that Indian leaders were wrong all along, including the Indian National Congress leadership, including Jawaharlal Nehru. But PM Narendra Modi and his party were dead wrong to go over the top. The theme of this conference lends to our current dilemma. There have been laws made in Kashmir for the last 70 years, 72 years, and then suddenly they were quashed. They were crafted by hand-picked Indophiles who were pro-India. They had dual loyalties to India as well as Kashmir. They were trying to reconcile those all their lives until they met their fate in prisons and dungeons. There are some rudimentary Dogra laws But since August, all those were quashed. India has repeatedly tried to and has succeeded in subverting state laws of Kashmir. But the local authorities did push back. Now, since 8/5, the Indian government has taken full control with no intervention from the state or the district levels. India has a free hand. PM Modi has no limits to his barbaric single mindedness. It's a reckless attitude. It's the either case of an evil genius or downright foolishness. There may be a method to Mr. Modi's regime's madness, but they sure seem to have assumed too much and worked on the basis of their own assumptions and calculations. The question is, will the Kashmiris take it all on their chin or will they resist? As BJP keeps piling abuse and atrocities on defenseless Kashmiris, how much and how long will Kashmiris take it? So far as we know, they will not succeed and Kashmiris will not bear this burden for too long. So what really motivates the Savarkari Hindus, that Hindu nationalists, to be so vicious towards Muslims in India and Kashmir? The answer is their historic insecurity, about their national and faith identity. They're mad about things around. They're mad why the Indian Muslims became Muslims, Indian Hindus became Muslims, and why then did Kashmiris convert from Brahmanism to Islam? And why did Pakistan become a separate state if they came out of a Hindu majority? They have a very, very aggressive racist group in their midst. The more we, the Kashmiris, raise our voices for freedom and self-determination, the more vicious the occupation regime is becoming. Kashmiris have always resented Indian occupation as an anomaly and a perversion. Over the years, India has tried every tool in their toolbox: temptation, manipulation, bribery, moral degradation, imprisonment, and death. They have failed to assuage most of the Kashmiris over 72 years. And that is unlikely to change and is actually being exacerbated by the Modi regime stripping of whatever semblance of autonomy there was. So going back to the August 5th, what has happened by abrogating the constitutional links between India and Kashmir and abrogating the rules and regulations? The Hindutva rage through Kashmiris, judges, closed courts, lawyers, and all. They terminated all top police officers and civil servants, top level officials. Muslim Kashmiri bureaucrats were fired or they are on their way, as Brother Rouhani said. New officials are being imported from India. Now there are some laws, of course, in Kashmir. They are Indian laws. They are barbaric laws. They are colonialist laws. They have nothing to do with the civilized society. These laws are specifically designed for the regime of Lut Khasud, which is an Urdu term, that is pillage and profiteering. Modi government has sent a huge list of these post-abrogation accomplishments to the foreign embassies only just a few days ago, touting their reforms in Kashmir, how fast they are moving in improving Kashmir economy and civil society. New Delhi has gone on a breakneck speed to implement these reforms, they say, in the Union territories. They pat themselves on their back for eradication of corruption in bureaucracy. Of course, they never tell anything to the foreign governments about the mayhem, the death, and the destruction caused by 900,000 occupation forces. They are dispossessing Kashmiris from their land. They're expropriating the land. They pillage, the loot, the mining of the riverbeds and river streams, and the tributaries for sand and minerals. It's all going on as we speak. It's a free for all. And there's no tomorrow for Indian Hindutva contractors. Under the new domicile law, they are ferrying hundreds of thousands of Indians to settle them in Kashmir. Floodgates have been opened, reminiscent of the old European colonialism in Africa, Middle East, and Asia, including the Mughal India, because Hindus were not ruling at that time. They ravage the native life and limb just as the Indians are doing in their colony of Jammu and Kashmir. They are making hay while the sun is up.
So, Dr. Sorry to interrupt. So, the issue of the military and the occupation in Kashmir, and when we look at similar occupations happening in some other parts of the world as well, what is it that the occupation in Kashmir is so brutal? What it makes it so brutal? Is this the Hindutva ideology? It is the brutality of RSS?
Thank you for asking that question. Several things. Number one is the Hindutva ideology. Hindutva ideology goes back to before 1900s. And in 1900s, 1926, Savarkar laid the foundation of the RSS type of Hindutva ideology. That's the term he used. They believe that India belongs to Aryan Hindus. They have rewritten the history that there were Dravidians living in India before, 4,000 years ago, and that all other people that are in India should be Hindus. They want, as they call it, Garvapsi, that you should come back home to Hinduism. In Kashmir, this has become a point of prestige for India because they believe this was a single Muslim majority state. And Indians were happy to have it, wear it as a badge of honor for the secularist regime. But these Hindutvas were growing parallel, and after getting rid of Mahatma Gandhi, who was the single most influential Indian secularist Hindu, once they got rid of him, they worked parallel hand in hand with the Indian National Congress because they were not able to get rid of them until they took power in 2014. In Kashmir, it makes it very hard because that ideology is at the core of what the current regime is doing. And with 900,000 soldiers, if you remember, last year in August, they brought 225,000 to 250,000 more armed men. And many believe that they were all Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh militias in civilian uniform. You can compare it to almost to what happened in Oregon and Seattle. That is happening, and they know how to go inside civilian areas and bring kids out and take thousands of them to prisons across India. So that makes it very hard.
Thank you. Thank you for telling us in much more detail about what exactly is going on in Kashmir. And now we will...
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And earlier when I mentioned that ICNA Council for Social Justice, which is organizing this webinar, which is about creating a digital human chain. And we are all seeing the poster on our screens. And the whole idea of this digital human chain was that if we are not able to go and form human chains standing in solidarity for people of Kashmir, but we are showing our solidarity for the people of Kashmir through this online digital human chain, and we have people from all over the world watching this program and sharing their support for the people of Kashmir. Moving forward, I have with us Dr. Osama Abu Irshaid, who's the executive director of American Muslims for Palestine. So when we talk about the issue of Kashmir, immediately, the time frame, 73 years for Kashmir, same time frame for the people of Palestine living under occupation, living under oppression. And a lot of things that we see happening in Kashmir, happening in Palestine. And sometimes it feels that this is all coming from the same script. You oppress people, you kick them out of their land, you grab their lands, you grab their properties, you just move in at night and push the whole family out. Like Brother Wani was saying, that at night the Indian soldiers moved in, and the family was thrown in one corner, and they took over the whole house. And we see that happening almost on daily basis in Palestine. And we are very happy that Dr. Osama was able to give us his time for today's webinar. He is, as I said, executive director of American Muslims for Palestine, and also a board member. He lectures frequently on Middle East and American politics. He is a regular commentator on Palestinian and Middle Eastern affairs, as well as on the American domestic and foreign policy on various Arabic satellite television shows, such as Al Jazeera. He authored and co-authored several books in Arabic, and he published dozens of studies and articles in Arabic and English on issues relevant to the Middle East and its political climate. Dr. Abu Irshaid completed his PhD in political science at Loughborough University in United Kingdom, and I'm very happy to have Dr. Osama Abu Irshaid with us, and we will ask him on the issue of Kashmir and similarities that he sees when it comes to issues of Palestine, and how can we, as living in America, work for these two causes.
Thank you, Brother Naeem, and thank you for CSJ for giving me the opportunity to address such an important issue, not only to our Muslim Ummah, but to our humanity as well. As you mentioned, Brother Naeem, I'm Palestinian. And what is happening in Kashmir today, and what has been happening in Kashmir over the past 7 decades, is reminiscent of Israel's settler colonial project in occupied Palestine. They are using the same playbook as you said. And like Palestinians, Kashmiris have long resisted a brutal military occupation and struggled for self-determination. Now, as I said, I'm a Palestinian. So in Palestine, we're dealing with the attempts by Israel to Judaize our land and to Judaize our history. Kashmiris are dealing with attempts to Hindutva, Jammu and Kashmir, and hijacking that history and hijacking the rights of the Kashmiri people in their own land. Today, we are witnessing more aggressive attempts to change the composition of the population in Kashmir, which amounts to a cultural and religious genocide. This is exactly what has been taking place in Palestine for over than 7 decades. In 2018, Israel passed a basic law, which is titled Israel as the nation state of the Jewish people. We are seeing the same attempts now in Kashmir. Just last year, the Indian Parliament passed an amendment to the citizenship bill that gives rights to migrants who come from neighboring countries, minorities who are come from neighboring countries, to have a citizenship in India, conditioned upon the fact that they are not Muslims. So Muslims are excluded, but if you're a Hindu or Sikh, or if you're a Buddhist or Christian, you can be given the citizenship. Israel is doing the same. And this shouldn't come as a surprise. The attempts by the ruling party now in India to build an exclusive Hindu settlement in the Muslim majority region shouldn't come as a surprise, because in the recent years, India has become both a strategic ally and top armed consumer of Israel, spending over $700 million annually on weapons from an apartheid state called Israel. So Israel is an apartheid state, and make no mistake, India is another apartheid state. So we should be very careful when we examine the situation in India today that discriminate against its Muslim population, who are in the hundreds of millions, that discriminating and brutalizing over 7 million citizens of its Muslim citizens in Jammu and Kashmir. We should make no mistake that this is the definition of an apartheid state that is committing cultural and religious genocide against a portion of its own people. Now, I'm not going to give a background on the situation of India. The brothers and the sisters know more about Kashmir, about the situation there, about what our brothers and sisters are going through. But I just want to focus a little bit more about what can be done here in the United States. How can we serve, and how we can serve and work on behalf of the oppressed people of Kashmir today, regardless of their religion, regardless of where they come from. It's not because they're Muslims, it's because they're human beings. Because they deserve to live in dignity. They deserve to have the right for self-determination. They deserve to enjoy the benefits of the citizenship. They deserve these rights. And this is something that we are dealing with here today in the United States of America. Today, there is the rebirth, the re-emergence of a new civil rights movement that, today is focused on restoring the rights of the African-American community in the United States, but by extension of securing the rights of all of the citizens of the United States of America, where you will eliminate bigotry, and you will eliminate discrimination and institutionalized discrimination and bias in this country. So how can we serve Kashmir today here in the United States of America? I think that the Palestinian movement here in the US, or the movement for Palestine, can set a good example for our brothers and sisters in India. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because as Palestinians or advocates for Palestine, we are embarking from a disadvantaged position. We are embarking from a disadvantaged position, meaning Palestine has been demonized in the United States. The right of the Palestinian people has been demonized in the United States. The Palestinian people themselves have been demonized in the United States. And the same thing is happening now today in Kashmir, because the Kashmiris have to go up against stereotyping, demonization, accusations of terrorism. There is an attempt to conflate their rights for their plight for autonomy, their plight for independence, for plight for self-determination, and terrorism. And there is no better region where you can conflate terrorism with self-determination and the right for freedom and dignity as a human being. It is Pakistan. It's the Indian subcontinent. It's where Al-Qaeda is operating from. It's where Daesh today is operating in. It's the breathing ground. It's the safe haven, as some commentators and some of our politicians are trying to suggest now to the public opinion here in the United States. There is another reason. Today India is a new geopolitical ally of the United States against Russia, against China. We have another factor here. Xenophobia is a factor in India. It is a factor in the United States today under the Trump administration. So what do we need to do? How do we go up against all of these challenges? I will mention a few ideas here. Number one, and this is something that we've been doing as Palestinians. I'm not going to say that we're very successful, but that doesn't mean that we don't try. Number one, we have to change the perceptions. We have to frame our issue in India as a human rights issue. It's not Muslims as opposed to Hindus. It is not a religious war for us in India. What we are seeing in India is a brutal system, or a system that has been hijacked, that functions under the pretense of the largest democracy in the world, while India today is not a democracy and it has no connection to the values of democracy. So we have to change the perception here, and changing the perception will come through, number one, education. We have to educate the American public. We have to educate our politicians. We should not embark from the conviction that we have biased politicians, that we have politicians who are inherently against us, who are inherently opposed to us because we're Muslims. We should not embark from this point. Where we should embark from is that many of our politicians are ignorant when it comes to the facts. So we have to teach them about the facts. That's number one. And we have to make sure that we're teaching the American population. And that means that you have to have seminars, you have to have literatures, you have to have maybe hearings and briefings in Congress. You have to have articles about framing the issue of Kashmir and framing the plight of the Kashmiri people. Number two, we have to start advocating to what we believe in. We have to start advocating for the rights of the Kashmiri brothers and sisters. If we don't advocate and we limit our efforts to education, then we're not accomplishing anything. We need to advocate for what we believe in. We need to reach out to our politicians, reach out to Congress, send them these educational materials, suggest maybe some language to some bills that are being considered, or maybe lobby against some bills that are not favorable of the Kashmiri rights and the rights of the Kashmiri people. So this is the second point that I wanted to make. Number three, once we start advocating, we have to mobilize and organize. It doesn't make sense that until today, we don't have a solid movement in the United States for Kashmir. The origins of the issue of Kashmir, of the crisis in Kashmir, has been as long as Palestine. Started in if I'm going with the official date of 1947, that's when the Palestinian crisis started, in 1947. I know that the roots go far beyond that, but officially we say it's 1947. That's when the Palestinian crisis started as well. So we have to mobilize and organize. We waited so long here in the United States to organize and mobilize for Kashmir. It wasn't until last year when the new laws, when the constitution was amended, when Kashmir lost its status as an autonomy. Today we have to start organizing and be consistent in our organization. And again, advancing the cause of the Kashmiri people on the grounds of human rights, and try to place it within now the civil rights movements that is taking place in the United States. It's not only, it's Black Lives Matter today. Today, if we win this struggle, we have to win other struggles. We have to fight for Black Lives Matter, because tomorrow I'm going to be fighting for Palestine Lives Matter, and after tomorrow I'll be fighting for Kashmiri Lives Matter. So if we're not part of the movement here in the United States, we cannot claim that we deserve the same support. So we have to be part of the Black Lives Matter today in order for us to be able to sell our cause and to say, look, it's emanating from the same source. This bigotry, this racism, this anti-Semitism and the anti-Muslims, anti-Blackness, they're emanating from the same source. It's ignorance and bigotry. We have to be very careful about our messaging, and we have to be very careful about building our alliances in the United States. Without alliances, you don't have the depth and you don't have the effectiveness. That's one. These are some of the issues that we learned as Palestinians, that you have to broaden your alliances, that you have to expand your reach, that you have to place it in a human rights frame. It's not Muslims as opposed to others. We're not in a religious war, even if others are trying to portray it as a religious war. But America here still despises, those who speak in terms of religion. Where you put people against each other because of their color or because of their religion. Yes, we have bigoted, I would say, a vocal bigoted minority in this country, but you have the overwhelming majority of the American people who identify with the human rights and identify with the humanity. That's what we need to work on. One last thing, I wanna say, it doesn't make any sense, and it's counterproductive to be working against the Hindu lobby in the United States while building bridges with the Zionist lobby in the United States. The Zionist lobby is the enabler of the Hindu lobby in the United States. So let us be smart about this. Let us not try to deceive ourselves, because I see some of our brothers and sisters are reaching out to the Zionist lobby. In fact, they had this relationship for many years now. Many of our brothers and sisters from India, from Kashmir, went and visited Israel and met with Israeli officials. Many of them took positions against the Palestinian people and their plight for freedom and dignity and equality and justice. Those people should not speak and must not speak for the Kashmiri rights, and the Kashmiri movement in America should not be defined by them, because they are cheating their community and they are cheating their conscience and they are betraying what we stand for. You cannot be for an apartheid regime in Palestine and against an apartheid regime in India, as I cannot be for an apartheid regime in India and against an apartheid regime in Israel. We have to stand on principle when it comes to our religion. We have to stand on principle when it comes to human rights. We have to stand on principle when it comes to justice, equality, and freedom for all and dignity for all. So I'm hoping that we can build this alliance here in America, broaden our alliances, broaden our reach here in America, and stand on principle and start this movement for Kashmir, because I guarantee you this, and I say it with a heavy heart. This is an issue that is going to live with us for many, many, many years to come. It's not going to be over tomorrow. It's not going to be over if Trump loses the elections and Biden becomes the president. It's going to be with us for many, many years from now. Our Kashmiri brothers and sisters, the 7 million Muslims, the 7 million human beings who live in Kashmir, they are going to continue to suffer for many years. And now we see that Indian Muslims, who are in the hundreds of millions, are also suffering. When are we going to start to organize, mobilize, fight for their rights? If we don't start now, if it's not a sustained effort, if it's not a well thought of efforts, then it will never happen. This is the time to do it. This is the time where America is fighting for its soul, searching for its soul. And this is the time where America is saying enough is enough when it comes to racism, to bias, and to bigotry. And this is the time to root our causes in this movement here in America.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Osama Burshid. Just to summarize, educate, advocate, mobilize, and organize, and build alliances. I think these are very good advices. You know, one of the things that, you know, obviously you are very passionate. You have been, you know, in this cause for decades now. Since your youth, you have been working on the issue of Palestine, and from your experience and your efforts through AMP and through other organizations, and we see that the similarities and in when it comes to Palestine and when it comes to Kashmir, and that is what I think a larger conversation has to take place, learning from the efforts from the Palestinian brothers and sisters and their mobilization, and how Kashmiris and they can better organize and also build alliances and relationships. Thank you very much. Um, one of our speakers for today was Lord Nazir Ahmed, and we heard from Lord Nazir Ahmed that he is in Lisbon right now. He is right now taking part in a demonstration in Lisbon, again on for the issue of Kashmir and Kashmiri people, and he sent his regrets that he was not. He tried to log in, but I guess it was not working for him to log in and to give his comments for our program. We will move on to our uh, last speaker of our webinar today, and Brother Osama Jamal is the Secretary General of U.S. Council of Muslim Organizations. It is an umbrella organization of national, regional, and local Muslim organizations in the U.S. He's also the President and Chairman of Board of Mosque Foundation in Bridgeview, Illinois, and a member of the Strategy Board of the Metro Industrial Areas Foundation. Um, Brother Osama Jamal has served in different capacities, including at U.S. Department of State in subcommittees on international religious freedom, Interfaith Advisory Board of the Department of Homeland Security, and he also served as Director of MASSPACE, the Public Affairs and Civic Engagement Division of Muslim American Society. Brother Osama Jamal is a graduate of Ohio State University in engineering, and mashallah has dedicated his life for the service of American Muslim community here and serving the community through organizing, building strength of Muslim organizations, bringing them all together, and raising concerns at national level and international level. We are very happy to have Brother Osama Jamal with us, and we would like to hear from him how, again, as American Muslim community, and then you are in the leading position of many Muslim organizations under USCMO. So what has been done so far? What is USCMO sees that the efforts that can be made towards raising awareness for the rights of Kashmiri people?
Jazakallah khair. Thank you. I would like to thank ICNA Social Justice for this opportunity to speak about a very important topic, about very important cause that unfortunately it is long overdue to become a mainstream issue for American Muslims. That's something that we should do. I certainly going to miss Lord Nazir Ahmed to be with us here, but I'll be happy to take his time and add it to my time. No, I don't mean to take that long. The issue of Kashmir, we all guilty of not learning enough about it and to become a household issue, just like the Palestinian issue, just like the other issues. But I also would like to remind ourselves that American Muslims, they do not deal with one issue. When it comes to Bosnia, we all rose for Bosnia. When it comes to Palestine, we went to Palestine, to Afghanistan, to Somalia, to Lebanon, to Iraq, to Afghanistan. The Muslim community, we cannot really whip our back all the time and say, you know, we've been doing a lot. Because there are too many issues. Almost every community is suffering. Now the Syrians, I mean, you name it. And alhamdulillah, our leadership in the Muslim community, the activists, they're always there, the same. You find them here and there and there. And so there is a sense of exhaustion, overwhelming issues and causes that goes beyond the means of a community. Other communities, they only focused on their own. There's no other issues to work with. So they would be able to focus, mobilize, and concentrate. We here, maybe in the entire Muslim community is equal to the same number of other community, but within this entire Muslim community, there are so many different cases and so many different causes. So definitely, I will add to the list of things to do that Brother Osama mentioned: organize, mobilize, is unite. That's the only way that we can face this dilemma of too many issues that Muslim Americans face in a superpower country that can do a lot of things, and therefore we have to maximize our resources, our organizational power, in a way that can be more effective than organizations working on their own, or sometimes organizations want to do too many things and they are not effective in any of the causes that they take. I do commend AMP for focusing on the issue of Palestine, because they now start to give some steam to the issue of Palestine. Of course, there are some other things changing thanks to Trump, who pushed many of those who claim to be on the side of human rights to start come closely to the Palestinian issue only because they want to oppose Trump. The real test will be is after Trump. Would that support for the Muslim community and their rights will continue? That's their challenge as well as our challenge. Let me just quickly, why every country is beating on Muslims in China, in India, in Palestine, in so many different places. Obviously, the lack of unity among the Muslim ummah gives a blatant and emboldened the dictatorship and also the bigotry in some of those countries who go after Muslims because nobody else is going to stand up for them. They care about nobody. Businesses continue with India. Business continue with China. If the Gulf states alone, they stop the employment and the jobs for India, alone is going to put a lot of pressure on the Indian government to rethink the way that they deal with Indian Muslims as well as the issue of Kashmir. But business continue to be as normal and they have nothing to worry about. The same thing with the Israeli-Palestinian issue and the Arab conflicts, the entire Arab conflict. Look how much money they are putting just against their own people. They're spending unbelievable amount of money just to protect their own governments and their own chairs to stay on power. If that even a fraction of that money spent to protect themselves against the aggression of the Israelis, none of that would have happened. So it tells you that the problem starts within the Muslim world, that we have to change. Last December, there was a glimpse of hope. We don't know how much that can flourish between Malaysia, Pakistan, Turkey, Qatar, and others. If that trend continues, if those countries continue to cooperate and work with, there could be a nucleus of some kind of unity, of some kind of power that, believe me, some countries will stop paying attention to. That's on the Muslim world. Back to the United States. Look, in as much as we want to work, others are working. Lobbyists are very strong in this country. This is how it works. You got a good lobbying efforts in Washington, D.C., you can get your voice heard. Alliances and coalitions are very important. But also don't forget that money talks, connections with lawmakers works, and our absence from government areas is also can affect us. It is sometimes I hear that people, they don't want the Muslim leadership to engage with our government to discuss many other issues, as if we should be always have our government as the enemy. We cannot deal with that way. We disagree with our government on many of their policies, domestic and international. The only way we can change it is by engaging and raising the voice and pinpointing where the problems are. Domestically, we are between our own survival, the harassment, the no-fly list, the watch list, all kind of a pressure on our mosque and our leadership. In addition to the causes that we have to deal with, we have to break being isolated to going out. Yes, definitely coalitions and allies, that is going to break that isolation, and also engaging. And definitely, as much as we want to have our own lobby and our own ways to push, the others are doing the same thing. Zionism and Hinduism are together. They are supporting one another. They are powerful in Washington, D.C. You can see how even in the media, you see Hindus and Zionists, or those leaning towards Israel more, even in the media. They are given the platform. And if we have anyone from the Muslim community comes, has to be liberal, who will support those ideas and will put down on the Muslim community. And not only that, will attack political Islam and Islamists and so on and so forth. So unfortunately, even when we have somebody in either within the government or within administration or within the media, they become the ones who will be not really that much of help, whereas the others, they come wholeheartedly and fully supporting their causes. So there will be a lot of also soul searching within the Muslim community. We have to stand up. We have to be united. Even within the Muslim organizations, we really need to streamline our thinking. Jumping from here to there is not going to work. We have to understand that liberalism is as dangerous as the conservative, those who are publicly bigoted and hate mongers against Muslims. Liberalism also diluting our identity, and in a way, sometimes they do cause us a lot of harm than really good. But we are caught in the middle, and that requires us to be more savvy, more intelligent in dealing with things. Yes, it takes politics, it takes smart moves, but also without compromising our values, our identity, and the way that we need it. And I think we would like to stop over here.
Thank you very much, Brother Osama. And you highlighted many of the important aspects of when it comes to mobilization and uniting the community and collectively working against any oppression. And thank you for raising that comment. And I would like to also offer our message of support for the people of Lebanon.
Thank you.
I hope your family is safe and your relatives are safe. And obviously, it was it's a great tragedy that happened, and many people have lost their lives, and thousands are injured as being reported. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take care of the sick and the injured, and give them speedy recovery and shifa.
Thank you.
And there are many comments. As I was looking at the comments that we received, both of you, thank you for joining this panel, and you are here. So I will put some of the questions for you. And I think Dr. Abu Irshad, on your comments, that this is not a religious issue. I see some of the comments from people who may come from a Hindu or a Sikh faith. They noted that, and they said that it is not about religion, it is about human rights. And we appreciate their comments as well. It is definitely about human rights and human dignity and the right of self-determination. And there are many people who are watching this show from even inside occupied Kashmir, and we thank them for being so brave in watching this show and this program, and many other parts of the world. So a question was asked that, when it comes to issue of Palestine and issue of Kashmir, why has UN failed these two people from these two places? What do you think, Dr. Abu Irshad?
Well, we have to admit that we do have imperialism, we have colonialism, and we have countries that they don't believe in what they preach. You know, we live in America. I'm an American citizen. I can say this here in the United States, but people are denied the right to speak out against their own governments that are supported by the United States, by the country that we live in and we enjoy its citizenship. So here in the United States, you can speak out against the administration, but in many parts of the world, you cannot speak out against your governments, and these same governments are supported by the United States. So there is a level of hypocrisy, and and this hypocrisy is defined by imperialism, meaning that we, the United States, Great Britain, France, Russia, China, will support governments, you know, that are anti-human rights, that don't respect the rights of their people, because we have interests with them. This is the fact. And by the way, when I say we shouldn't make it a religious issue, it doesn't mean that it's not a religious issue for Modi, you know. But I'm not going to blame all Hindus for what Modi is doing and what his party is doing. They want to make it a religious issue. As the Zionists, you know, Zionism is a secular movement, but it uses and abuses religion. But when we speak about the rights of the Palestinian people, and when we speak about the rights of the Kashmiri people or the Uyghur Muslims, and or the Muslims in Myanmar, the Rohingya Muslims, we don't make it about religion, because again, we identify with rights, with human rights. We identify with humans. It's not because they're Muslims we're defending them. We're defending them and we're standing for their rights because they're human beings by their mere definition. They were created free and equal. So these are not the same values that these imperial powers espouse or believe in. They will preach it, but they will not practice it. This is unfortunate. This is an unfortunate situation. This is where our role comes in. You know, here in the United States, here in America, I can say this and I can fight for this to become the norm, where the Declaration of Independence, or what the Declaration of the Independence stipulates in terms of equality, freedom, and justice for all, becomes the norm in our foreign policy, becomes the norm in our domestic policies. We can fight for it, but I understand that the Kashmiris and the Rohingyas and the Palestinians don't have the same luxury, because they're dealing with brutal regimes that are terrorizing them. This is our fight here. Your fight there is to continue to exist on your land, not to give up your rights, not to accept the attempt to make you internalize your oppressor, become an embracer of your oppressor, accept and become complacent by accepting the subjugation of your oppressor. So this is why when we talk about, you know, this diversion between what we say as nations, what we say as countries, and where our policies are, it is because it is unfortunate. Again, it is because we have imperial interests where we don't see people are equal to our citizens here, and by extension, this mentality became now to haunt us, because now not every American citizen enjoys the same rights. We could say that, but this was from the inception of the United States, when we had slavery in America. Yes, true, but we had a civil war over that issue. We had a civil rights movement over that issue. We had constitutional amendments over that issue, but we are still dealing with it, because you know why? Because there is a disparity between what we say and what we do. So what we do overseas is we're doing here now. So we have to be realistic when we talk about the imperial interest and the imperial policies by countries like the United States that support colonial projects and support oppression of people because we have what we call strategic interest with them, but it is not strategic. It is about just standing for what the people in power are believe in and what they espouse in terms of values.
You remind me of the saying of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when he said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere."
Definitely.
And unfortunately, when our government stays silent at the injustices happening around the world, we are also seeing injustices happening in our nation as well. And use of military and paramilitary forces on our own civilians is happening now in our country as well. I just want to inform our brothers and sisters who are watching this show that ICNA CSJ will be sending a letter to UN Secretary General on behalf of all of you who are watching the program and were part of this digital human chain for Kashmir around the UN. So all of you who are joining this program, there will be a letter that will be sent to UN Secretary General on your behalf about this issue. In conclusion, I would request Brother Osama Abu Jamal that as a leader of USCMO, and especially I think there were a couple of questions that you are only doing these shows, but what are you doing in reality about the groundwork and things like that? Would you like to briefly mention the Capitol Hill Day and the efforts that USCMO has done so far?
Right. USCMO does things that sometimes not everybody get to know, not because we're hiding, but because sometimes for other reasons. Definitely the annual National Muslim Advocacy Day on Capitol Hill is one of our biggest effort that we do to connect with members of Congress, and we do talk about different issues. Initially, we wanted to focus on domestic, that belongs to American life, Muslims' life in America, the bias, the discrimination that we had. So now I think we do need to focus more on some of those issues like the Palestinian issues, the Kashmiri issues, just like we want to now focus as well on the Syrian issues and other issues where we need to have more of attention of our U.S. policy towards that region. There are some other efforts that USCMO does. We do meet with the top officials on the State Department because we believe those who are making the policies, those who are in contact with our embassies in the countries where so much is happening in terms of human rights violations or those atrocities, we hold our government responsible and accountable to what kind of policy are they conducting in these countries and what kind of pressure do we exert on these countries when they have a special treatment by the U.S. In terms of aid, in terms of support, at the UN or any other places. And so we do have those routine meetings. Last year, we met with the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State on the South Asia, and we did bring this issue of Kashmir, and we pressured the State Department to do more active role in the area because there is a potential of a clash between two nuclear countries, India and Pakistan, and that would definitely not going to be for the best interest of the U.S. or these two countries or the entire world to have any conflict of that nature. And so we gave the importance of this crisis in the region, and that India has transgressed on what is known to be an issue has to be resolved at the UN. And we are silent on those issues, and we are not doing much. So we are building a lot of pressure. There will be another meeting with the top officials at the State Department on the issue of Kashmir. And we will continue to meet with them on the other issues. That is not the only way we do things, or we serve those causes. But those are one of the important ways to do it, because if we do not raise our concerns, they will think that everything is fine. And believe me, They also work under pressure. They like to hear the other point of view. They receive a lot from the other parties, and they have to hear it from us as well. So between members of Congress, between the policymakers and the foreign policy apparatus at the State Department and their offices around the world, and the activism that we do, and I must commend each and every organization who served in any capacity for Kashmir or for Palestine or for the Syria or for any of us. Jazakumullah khair, they're doing good. But the more we do united effort, collective effort, and an agenda that we all work together, instead everybody speaking in a different line, we should unify and we should have a strong agenda where all of us talk. We meet with candidates, we give donation to their campaign, but how much have we given them our agenda to hold them accountable to where they stand on our issues? That's something that need to be educated for our community. When you go out and vote, when you cast your vote, meet with the ones you want to vote for and tell them, this is my agenda. Where you stand on the issue of Kashmir. I have an issue with India against Kashmir. Would you in Congress support policies to stop atrocities against the people in India and Kashmir? These are the kind of things that we need to have the collective effort and education for our community. Otherwise, business will continue. We have to vote. We will give money for the candidates, but we are getting nothing in return. We have to have an agenda. And so that's part of USCMO, to educate and to unify the efforts and amplify our voices where we have to make the others hear us. And that's what I think we do.
Thank you very much, and may Allah bless all of you. And we thank all of our presenters who gave their time and spoke today in this program. We thank ICNA Council for Social Justice for organizing this webinar on this very, very important topic. And we're looking forward to, and we thank all of you who have been watching this webinar for almost over 90 minutes now, and participated with your comments and showing us through your support. I was just looking at many of you who are watching this show from occupied Kashmir, and we ask God Almighty to make to grant you freedom, to grant you the right of self-determination, and may this difficult time leave you as quickly as possible. And we pray to God Almighty that wherever people are under oppression, may God Almighty alleviate their oppression and grant them their human rights of freedom and justice and equality. With that, I conclude today's program. Thank you very much, and justice and freedom for all. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi.
Thank you.